Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start the class with some prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhu Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityorma amritam gamya. Om सहना भवतु सहना भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहि तेजस्वी नावधीतमस्तु मा विद्वेषावहि. Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, this is our Vivekachudamani class. And we are learning in these verses, and it is towards the end of the scripture, Adi Shankaracharya is telling us the characteristics or the signs of a Jivan Mukta person. Jivan Mukta. So our last verse which we studied last time when we had this class was verse number 432. Where he said that absence of the I and mine concepts, even in this body, which persists like a shadow, this is the indication in a Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta. So let's start our class with the 433, verse number 433, which starts with the Atit word, because some of the books numbering is little off also. So Atit Anusandhanam Bhavishyat Avicharanam Odasiniyam Prapte Lakshanam Jivan Muktasya. Atit Anusandhanam, no thought for the enjoyments of the past. Atit means past. So it's almost like a not remembering or not dwelling in the past. Bhavishyat avicharnam, no thought for the future. So that means no anxiety about the future also. Because normally a normal mind likes to fluctuate between the past and the future. Odasiniyam, indifference. Odasin. Prapte, in the present. So that means in the present accomplishments or all the pursuits. Jivan Muktasya, of a Jivan Mukta. It's like a liberated while living. Lakshanam. Its lakshan means a mark or an indication. Lakshan or a characteristics. No thought for the enjoyments of the past. Normally we think that, oh, in the past it was so good. So enjoyment of the past. No thought for the future. And indifference even for the present. Udasin. This is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So a man of realization. So whether we call him a liberated person, a yogi, man of realization, over here Shankaracharya is using the word Jivan Mukta. He refuses to think of the failures or even regrets or even happy times of the past. And he does not worry about the future. And totally indifferent to the cares of the present. Let's look at next one, because this is easy to understand what he's talking about. Because we have seen our mind. If you pay attention to our mind, what does it do? Keeps on fluctuating. Yogi's mind is completely still. The next one, gun dosh vishishte asmin swabhaven vilakshane सर्वत्र समदर्शित्वम जीवन मुक्तस्य लक्षणम गुण दोष विशिष्टे अस्मिन् qualified by auspicious and inauspicious characteristics. It's like a riddled with elements possessing with merit and demerit. Gun and dosh. Swabhaven, its own nature, by nature. Vilakshane, different from one another. Sarvatra means everywhere. Samdarshitvam, looking with an equal eye. Samdarshita. Jivan muktasya, of a Jivan mukta. And lakshanam again means indication. Looking everywhere with an equal eye on this world which is riddled with guna and dosha. Characteristically different one from the other. This is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. Okay? When we look at this Prakriti, sure, in the relative sense, there are guna and the dosha. In a plant, you will see the thorns also and the flowers also. That's just a Prakriti. But Jivan Mukta sight is equal vision. Because what is equal everywhere? Brahman. He's looking at only Brahman, the God everywhere. So all the experiences of the mind and intellect, they are good and bad. Gun dosh vishishtaha. It's mind and intellect which is telling. So this world is full of properties. It's not just the good and bad. It's not just the merit and demerit. There are happiness and sorrow also. So Prakriti by its very nature is different from Brahma. Because Prakriti is finite, Brahma is infinite. So Jivan Mukta person is always looking at the infinite, the Brahma. He has transcended the mind and the intellect. That's why it's a Samdarshitvam. Samdarshi, a man of equal vision in all situations. And a person who has realized this highest will live in this world with this kind of characteristics. Because the person understands the trick of the mind which gives the hallucinations. Mind will say this is beautiful, this is ugly. But Jivan Mukta person's equanimity cannot be broken by any happenings around. Okay? So things are happening. There is a snowstorm also, and there is a sunshine also. But he sees the Brahma in all of it. All of it. Next one, 435. Ishta anishta अर्थ संप्राप्त हो समदर्शित्वे आत्मनि उभे अत्र विकारित्वम जीवन मुक्तस्य लक्षणम. So in all these verses, he is just only taking our attention towards the Jivan Mukta person. Ishta anishta artha samprapta. When confronted with things pleasing or painful, ishta or anishta. It also means like a favorable or unfavorable. Ubhyatra avikaritvam, to be unperturbed. In both cases, ubhya means both, avikar means no change. Unperturbed in both cases. Atmani, in one's own understanding. Samdarshyata, by maintaining an equal attitude or equanimity. Again, Jivan Muktasya, of a Jivan Mukt, liberated while living. Lakshanam, indication. When confronted with things pleasing or painful, to be unperturbed in both cases by maintaining an equal attitude. This is the indication of a Jivan. So a person who lives in the body, so Jivan Mukt is living in the body, is living among ourselves, but it's not, understands that I am not the body. So when the happenings, good or bad or indifferent, reach this person, he maintains an equanimous attitude towards them all. Because he is looking at only Atma. In all such situations, favorable or unfavorable, he sees the substratum only. And substratum is Atma or Paramatma, Brahma. So in circumstances pleasant or otherwise, he is an avikari. Avikari. We are familiar with this vikari word. Vikari is one who reacts. A vikari will bring about modifications in his own mind, vikar, in the mind. Because normally what happens in an average person, ordinary person, when pleasant things come about, the person is pleased. When things are unpleasant, he becomes cross. Our mind is turned and ruffled by the circumstances and happenings around. But Jivan Mukta is unruffled, watches the passing parade of the world. That's what Jivan Mukta person is. Next one. Brahmanand ras aswad asakt chitya yate antar bahir vigyanam Jivan Muktasya lakshanam. Brahmanand ras, that's a bliss of absolute, bliss of Brahma. Aswad asakt, experiencing the essence. So that means that mind constantly engaged in tasting the bliss of Brahma. Whose mind? Jivan Mukt's mind. Constantly experiencing that bliss. Yate. Yate is a disciplined person, a sannyasi. Yate. Or master of the senses. Antar bahir vigyanam. Non-entertainment of distinctions within and without. Antar bahir. Again, Jivan Muktasya, of a Jivan Mukt person. Lakshanam, indications. Constantly engaged in tasting the bliss of Brahma. Constantly. A sannyasi entertains no distinctions of within and without. That means the Brahma is inside, Brahma is outside. Brahma is at a good time, Brahma is at a bad time too. Constant tasting or enjoying the nectar of Brahma. This is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So he is engrossed in the enjoyment of that Brahmic consciousness. Actually, the Brahmacharya word is like that too. A person who is roaming in Brahma, Brahmacharya. So enjoyment of that Brahmic consciousness, which is the experience of Ananda, bliss. In the worldly pleasures, we can get sukh. But then there's a sukh, and opposite of sukh and dukh is there too. When somebody puts us on the throne, sukh. When they kick us down, then there's a dukh. But from this connection, there's no severance because Brahma is everywhere, inside also, outside also. Because as long as we work with our mind, we will suffer. There are ups and downs. But man of perfection is extremely addicted to Brahmananda Rasa, that infinite Brahman, infinite bliss, Brahmananda Rasa. It's almost like an addiction to it. That's why first we do the yatan, then we become the yatis. First we have to make an effort, then when we know that it's everywhere, then it's always with us. And at such moments of experience of the essence of infinite bliss, that homogeneous whole, which doesn't know inside or outside. This person is even not aware of the outer worldly objects or the inner worldly things. It's all same. Next one, he says, still he is explaining or giving us the definition of a Jivan Mukta person. Deha indriye adau kartavye mam aham bhav varjita audasinyen ya tishthet sa Jivan Mukta lakshana. Deha indriye adau, with regard to body, sense organs, etc. Kartavya, with regard to duties, like a prescribed actions. Mam aham bhav varjita, free from all sense of I and mine, having no idea of I and mine. Audasinyen, with an attitude of indifference. So that means remains indifferent to them. Ya means, sa means he, Jivan Muktasya Lakshanaha, is the possessor of the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So having no idea of I and mind. With regard to the body, sense organs, etc. Nor to the duties, kartavya, living with an attitude of indifference. This is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So he has gotten rid of the ideas of I and mine, because these are just the equipments. Whether it's a body, mind, and intellect, he does not feel that these are mine. Doesn't have any idea that they belong to him. Because if something belongs to us, we should be able to take it with us. We know that we cannot take it. Objects we cannot, the body we cannot. But he has transcended his mind also. He knows that mind also belongs to the Prakriti, not to me. It's just a vehicle. Just like after waking up, I-ness of the dream body and the minus of the dream objects, they vanish. If I own something this super in my dream, when I wake up, I know that that object is not mine. Or if I think that I have some kind of a position, higher position, lower position, upon waking up, good realization that no, it's not mine. Similarly, the individuality and its possessiveness vanish when a person is awakened to the higher planes of consciousness. Okay, that's why we call this person awakened person. Awakened out of this dream. So what happens? He lives indifferent to the tragedies and the comedies that visit this body and mind and intellect. And this kind of attitude, when a person has, is a Jivan Mukt person. Jivan Mukt. विज्ञात आत्मनो यस्य ब्रह्मभावा श्रुते बलात् भावबंध विनिर्मुक्तः स जीवन मुक्त लक्षणः. Vigyat. Vigyata means known in a deep rooted way. Vigyat. It's almost like a realization. Atmanaha, in respect of the self. Yasya, for whom. Brahma bhavaha, the identity with the Brahm. So self with Brahm. Shrute balat, as affirmed by the Shrutis, that means the scriptures. So scriptures say it and he has experienced it. Bhava bandh vinirmuktaha is completely from the bondage of transmigration or this conditioned existence. Bhava bandh vinirmuktaha. Okay? It's like a completely free. Not even a trace of bondage. Sa Jivan Mukta Lakshanaha. Sa means he, Jivan Mukta Lakshanaha. Indication of a Jivan Mukta person. So deep rooted knowledge that the self is Brahma, affirmed by the scriptures and free from the bondage of transmigration. This is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So Bhava Bandha, this is a very important term in Hindu philosophy. It comes again and again in our scriptures. The worldly existence, which is conditioned by time, space, and causality, that is the bondage. And this is the cycle of birth and death, is referred as a Bhavasagar, ocean of sansar, Bhavasagar. That means the ocean of repeated births and deaths, and all that goes in between. And to seek freedom from the bondage of becoming is considered to be the supreme end of life. It's also called Param Purushartha. We are familiar with other 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. This is called a Param Purushartha. Param Purushartha. So one who has realized that the self is Brahma, affirmed by the scriptures, free from the bondage of becoming, this is the indication of a Jivan Mukta. So a person got to understand it, that the self in him is the self everywhere. And it's always aided by the study of the Shrutis, which is the Upanishads. And it happens with the method of systematic analysis. We got to think about it. That's why this buddhi has been given to us. Buddhi is the tool. Through this tool, we understand it. And when a person has risen to this higher plane of consciousness, suddenly realizes that not only is he the pure consciousness, but the whole universe is also nothing but the Supreme Self. So this is like a unity over here. Substratum of everything is a Brahma. And the person who has experienced this becomes completely liberated from all becoming. And this becoming word means transmigration. That means coming here again and again. So he's not affected by the changes that take place outside him and even subjectively within him. Let's look at next one. Deha indriyeshu aham bhav idam bhav tadan kehe yasyeno bhavata ko api sajivan mukta ishyate. Deha indriyeshu, with regard to body and organs. So that means the sense organs also, the organs of action also, mind and the intellect also. Deha indriyeshu. Aham bhav. Aham bhav is I sense, an ego. That is aham bhav. Idam bhav. The concept of this. So there's a aham bhav and there's a idam bhav. So then, okay, with regard to others, that means other things, any other thing. Yase means for whom. No means not at all. Bhavata, both are. Kva api, at any place. That means anywhere. Sa means he. Jivan muktasya, a jivan mukta, ishyate is considered. So before he has been using the word lakshana, now he is using the word ishyate. He who has no ego with regard to body, sense organs, etc. Nor the concept of this with regard to other things. He is considered a jivan mukta. So all these verses, they are indicating the jivan mukta for ourselves. We should not use all this information to judge others. This should be looked at for self-evaluation. How far we have come. Because others can never be judged by us, and we are not the judges for others. We need to judge only ourselves. So it's almost like a self-reflection or self-observation. These verses are given to us. Because ordinarily, the common experience of each of us is that we consider ourselves to be the body, the sense organs, the mind, and the intellect. This is like an individuality concept. I-ness is conditioned by all this. Ever since we were little, or maybe many, many lifetimes, this is what we have experienced. My body. We always think we are separate from others. Sure, with the physical body, we are separate, but we are not the physical body. Closer we get to understanding in reality who we are, the more oneness will feel with anybody. So our attitude towards the things outside the skin actually, is that they are either this or that. And this is what he said, idam bhav. Because things other than our body, mind, and intellect are all others. Body is this, and anything else is others. But in a person in whom the idea I, the subject, and this, the object, never comes. This is what he's trying to tell us. He says that person is a jivan mukta. So instead of the distinctions of I and this, he who sees the play of one consciousness everywhere is the jivan mukta. Jivan mukta. Because when we say that kan kan mein Bhagwan, there's no place where God is not. So that means the others also, not just other beings, the things also. The tables and the chairs and the bricks and the gold and the silver and the plants and the everything. There's no place where God is not. This is what Jivan Mukta says. Let's look at next one. न प्रत्यग ब्रह्मणोः भेदं कदापि ब्रह्म सर्गे प्रज्ञा यो विजानाति स जीवन मुक्त लक्षणः. No means not. Pratyag Brahmano Bhedam. The distinction between the self and Brahman. Bhed means distinction. Kadapi, at any time. Brahma Sargyo. The distinction between the creation and Brahma. Sarg means the creation. That means the universe. Sarg. Pragya, through knowledge. And this knowledge is like an illumination. Pragya. Okay. So that higher level of knowledge. Very suksham buddhi. Ya means he who. Vijanati, know all. So Jivan Mukta Lakshana. So means he, Jivan Mukta Lakshana, is the possessor of the indication of the Jivan Mukta. So through knowledge, through pragya, he who never distinguishes between the Jiva and Brahma, never, tadapi, and between the universe and Brahma, is indicated as a Jivan Mukta. So that means a person, that yogi, never recognizes any distinction between his subjective personality and the essential subject or the substance behind the objective world. Not only that, but within himself also, he sees no distinction whatsoever. He sees no distinction between the Lord behind the whole cosmos, which is called Ishwar, and the Lord functioning through the body, which is called Atma or a Jiva. So some people call it a Jiva Ishwar Ek Bhav. So it's like an identity between the individual Jiva and the universal self. So Pratyag Atma and Brahma. Nothing is ever there which is not Brahma. See, normally we do not make this kind of an investigation into it. The mind has been given to us, or the intellect has been given to us as human beings to investigate this. Through our thoughts, we have the thoughts, but we just, direction of our thought is only into the pluralistic world. But if we make our thoughts like this, that's why they say thought is the father for all your sorrows. It could be a father of your joys. All of them have sprung from non-apprehension. But a person who apprehends the reality will end all the misapprehension. Okay? So that's why this word over here, pragya. Pragya yo vijanati. We got to raise our understanding, our intellect to that level. Pragya. Lord Krishna used that word too. He even called sthit pragya. So it's like a constantly remaining in that pragya, that level of understanding. Let's look at next one. Sadhu bhi puje mane asmin pide mane api durjane samabhavo bhavetasya sajivan mukt lakshana. Sadhu bhi. by the virtuous. Pujyamane, even though worshipped. Asmin, with regard to his body. Pidyamane api, even though tortured. Durjane, by the wicked. Sambhav, sameness of feeling, the sambhav. Bhavet, would be there. Sa means he. Jivan Mukta Lakshana is the possessor of the indication of a Jivan Mukta. Okay. He who feels the same when his body is worshipped by the virtuous or tortured by the wicked. So he feels the same. Whether somebody puts the garlands in the neck or somebody rebukes, feels the same, is considered a Jivan Mukta. Okay. So the man of realization does not react. That's what really means. It does not react either positively or negatively to the external world. No effect at all. Because he's awakened. So the man of realization, when he lives in the world, lives like this. Because there will be some good people will be worshipping him with flowers, will adore him with prostration. And there are always some people who will not believe in it. And he's calling them wicked because they don't understand it. So they will rebuke him, but his attitude is the same towards all. Because he knows that the world outside is but himself. It's part of me. Right? I mean, we do experience that. When our tongue gets bitten by our teeth, we accept it. We don't pull our teeth out. We accept it. It's okay, my teeth, my tongue. So what? So his attitude is enlarged outside of his body also, to others also. The same homogeneous Brahman everywhere. So the glories of the liberated person are endless. That's why so many verses he is describing it to us. How can you enumerate it? So that's why Shankaracharya is concluding all this in the next verse. Yatra pravishtaha vishyaha pareritaha nadi pravaha ivari rasho linantihi sanmatrateya na vikreha utpadyen tesh yati vimuktaha. Yatra means in whom. Pravrishtaha, entering. Vishyaha, the sense objects. Pariritaha, directed by others. Or by others, indeed. Nadi pravaha, the flowing rivers. Iv means like. Vari rashav, in the ocean. Linantihi, merging. Sanmatrateya, because of absorption in existence absolute. Sanmatrateya. No means not. Vikriyam, any change, any undue change. Vikriya. Utpadyantihi, producing. Yati means That sannyasi, the master of senses, a disciplined person, vimukteha, liberated, freed completely. The sannyasi, the yogi, in whom the sense objects channeled by others are received like flowing rivers into the ocean, producing no change because of his absorption in existence absolute, is truly liberated. A realized person never courts the objects of pleasure, but when they are given to him by others, they enter and merge into him. They will not add any iota of happiness, nor do they cause any sorrow. So no disturbance in the mind, no rag and no dvesh. That's what he means over here. Ordinary person like us, what do? We run towards the pleasures. We want to run away from the sorrow. And constantly there's a fluctuation in our mind. But Jivan Mukta is wherever that person is, it's okay. Lord Krishna in chapter 2, the Sankhya Yoga chapter, the verse number 70, let me take your mind towards that. The same thing he said. In fact, the same analogy he is using over there too. Apurya manam achal pratishtam samudra apa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama yam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama kami. Thousands of rivers bring millions and millions of gallons of water to the ocean. Day in and day out. Yet the ocean does not rise even a centimeter. It swallows them all. So that is the condition of a Jivan Mukta. Objects are there, people are there, happenings are there, but no difference in the arena of the yogi. When into that unfathomable depths of the perfected person's wisdom, sometimes the objects are thrust by the virtuous and the wicked. His mind never emerges into the world to hug them. When the objects and the experiences reach him, what happens to them? And objects does not mean only the physical objects. Objects could be threats, it could be the punishments, it could be the persecution, it could be the insults, it could be the worship also, or it could be the praises. They all merge into his heart and they disappear. He doesn't remember them. They disappear. Because the infinite consciousness alone remains. And infinite consciousness, what? Brahmananda. These outer objects, they cannot create any activity. His mind never jumps out to them because his mind has merged into the bliss. So such an individual is totally liberated. That's why he called it Jivan Mukta. So whatever comes within his knowledge only strengthens his identity with Brahma. And we'll see next week, verse number 443, he is re-emphasizing the thoughts from this verse. So let's end the class here by reciting this Shanti Mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamev avasheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.